I want you to take a second and just think about a past mistake.
Oh, yeah, we all have one.
Right. You know the exact one I'm talking about, the one that still makes you physically wince when it pops into your head at like 2 in the morning.
Oh, the 2 a.m. highlight reel?
Exactly. The highlight reel of regret. Your heart rate ticks up, your stomach drops, and you just get that sudden hot flush of embarrassment or, regret.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe it's a moment you lost your temper and just broke a relationship or a financial decision that completely blew up in your face.
We've all been there.
We really have. That reel is always playing in the background of our psyche. But what if that specific painful memory, the one you spend so much mental energy trying to just pave over and suppress, what if that is actually a hidden gold mine?
I mean, it really requires a profound shift in perspective, doesn't it? Because, well, our default human operating system is to just run from our errors.
Yeah, run and hide.
Right. We try to bury them, we try to rationalize them away, or we pretend they never happened. But if we actually stop and dissect the anatomy of a mistake, the raw material it provides for personal evolution is just staggering.
And that is exactly what we are getting into today. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are continuing our daily exploration through the practices of Rhonda Byrne's The Magics.
Yes, we are.
Today, we are zooming in on day 26, which is all about magically transforming mistakes into blessings. And look, as an audience that's been following this journey, we already understand the baseline power of gratitude.
We know the drill.
Right? We know how it shifts our frequency. But today is where the rubber really meets the road. This isn't about being grateful for your morning coffee or, a beautiful sunset.
No, this is much heavier.
Yeah, this is about applying radical, almost retroactive gratitude to the darkest, most cringeworthy moments of your life.
Exactly. And to be clear, this isn't about putting some, superficial toxic positivity spin on a disaster.
No, not at all.
It is a rigorous mechanical framework for handling regret. It challenges the very foundation of how we process failure and really how we construct our own internal narratives.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the quote that opens day 26. It's from Oprah Winfrey, and it says, "Turn your wounds into wisdom."
Such a powerful line.
It is. It's incredibly pithy. It sounds great on a bumper sticker, but the actual execution of that idea is rooted in a core premise, which is that every single mistake is inherently a blessing in disguise.
Which is hard to swallow sometimes.
Extremely hard.
Yeah.
Honestly, when you are in the thick of a massive failure, the last thing it feels like is a blessing. I mean, it feels like a complete catastrophe.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's a really grounding analogy used here in the text to reframe this, focusing on how a child learns to ride a bike.
Yeah, it's a perfect visual, really, because it highlights the cognitive dissonance in how we treat learning at different stages of life. Think about it. When you watch a 5-year-old on a bicycle, what happens? They wobble, they overcorrect.
They fall into the grass.
Exactly. They fall, they scrape their knees, they make countless physical and spatial mistakes. And as adults watching this, we never point at that kid and say, wow, what a catastrophic failure.
Right. Ever.
We inherently understand that through those exact physical mistakes, the child's brain is calculating balance, it's adjusting to gravity, and eventually mastering the skill.
We literally expect the wobble. We celebrate it as part of the process. We say, get back on your learning.
Yes.
But the moment we reach adulthood, we completely abandon that grace. We expect ourselves to somehow navigate complex, high-stakes life decisions without any training wheels.
It's so true.
We have this pervasive, rigid perfectionism where we tell ourselves, I should know better by now. Why does our brain do that? Why do we lose that grace for ourselves as we age?
Well, it really comes down to a fundamental misunderstanding of what autonomy and freedom actually require. We operate under this illusion of an arrival fallacy.
Oh, an arrival fallacy. What is that exactly?
Yeah. It's this idea that once you hit a certain age or status, you should just have it all figured out. You've arrived. But inherent in the freedom to make your own choices is the absolute necessity of making the wrong choices occasionally.
Right.
They are a package deal. You cannot have the autonomy to choose a complex, unscripted life path without also having the capacity to just veer totally off that path. I mean, if you aren't making mistakes, you aren't actually making choices.
You're just following a script.
Exactly. A safe, pre-written script.
So if I'm hearing you right, the mistake isn't a glitch in our operating system. It actually is the operating system.
Precisely. If we never made them, neuroplasticity would essentially halt. We wouldn't adapt, we wouldn't gain nuance, and we certainly wouldn't grow wiser. The framework we're looking at today frames the act of making mistakes as one of the most beautiful, functional things about being human. It is the literal engine of our evolution.
I really appreciate that reframing because it strips away the shame, but, it also leads to a very natural friction point for me.
Okay, what's that?
If mistakes are just this beautiful, natural engine of learning, why do they sting so deeply? Like, why is there so much psychological agony and even physical cortisol spikes attached to getting something wrong?
That is a crucial question. And it transitions us perfectly into the mechanics of pain because the emotional or psychological pain associated with a mistake is not arbitrary.
It's not random.
Right. It's not a punishment handed down by some judgmental universe. The pain has a very specific evolutionary and energetic purpose. It is a highly calibrated alarm system designed to ensure that we actually stop, pay attention, and extract the data we need to survive and thrive.
Okay, but sometimes that pain feels entirely disproportionate to the lesson. And this is where I want to push back a little, especially when we bring the law of attraction into the mix.
Go for it.
Because the premise here is that if we don't extract the lesson, the law of attraction dictates we will inevitably make the same mistake over and over. Like the universe will keep bringing us the same flawed dynamic until the consequences hurt so much that we're forced to learn.
That's the idea, yeah.
But I have to challenge this. If someone gets caught in a repeating loop, say, a string of highly toxic manipulative relationships, doesn't telling them the universe is turning up the pain until you learn your lesson border on victim blaming? Like, how does this framework separate a genuine opportunity for growth from just being preyed upon?
That is a highly valid critical pushback, and honestly, it's one that trips up a lot of people when they study these concepts. The distinction really lies in removing the anthropomorphism from the law of attraction.
Meaning we need to stop thinking of it as a person.
Exactly. It is not a punishing deity sitting on a cloud deciding you haven't suffered enough. Think of it more like a neutral feedback loop, much like gravity.
Okay, gravity.
Right. If you walk off a ledge, gravity doesn't pull you down to punish you for your ignorance. It pulls you down because those are the mechanics of the system.
So it's mechanical, not moral.
Exactly. It's completely neutral. When you are in a recurring loop, even a deeply painful or toxic one, your energetic state, your subconscious boundaries, and your internal beliefs are what you are broadcasting. The law of attraction simply matches that broadcast.
Oh, okay.
So the pain you feel in those recurring situations isn't a punishment for being a victim. It is the visceral friction of being out of alignment with your own highest good. It's your internal alarm bell screaming, "This dynamic is dangerous to our well-being."
And if you just ignore the alarm.
If you don't heed the alarm, if you don't change your internal broadcast and your boundaries, the mechanics of the system dictate that you will continue to attract the same frequency.
Man, so the tragedy isn't just the pain itself. The ultimate tragedy is unlearned pain.
Yes.
It's like enduring the burn, but never figuring out how to pull your hand away from the fire, so the suffering was utterly useless. You paid the heavy toll, but you walked away empty-handed.
That is beautifully put. Unlearned pain is the real tragedy. And that brings us to the ultimate roadblock. Like, why do we stay in these loops? Why do we suffer the pain but refuse to extract the lesson, even when the alarm bell is deafening?
What's keeping us stuck?
The framework points to one primary culprit, and it's a fundamental lack of ownership. To extract the wisdom from a mistake, you have to fully own the choice that led to it. But human nature, in its attempt to protect the fragile ego, often chooses the ultimate trap instead.
The blame game.
The blame game.
The blame game. It is a wildly effective short-term anesthetic. I mean, it feels so incredibly good in the moment to point the finger outward rather than look in the mirror.
Oh, it's so much easier.
And this is where we have to dive into a scenario that I think every single person listening has experienced, or at least can perfectly visualize. It's the speeding ticket scenario. This is the absolute masterclass in understanding how blame fundamentally robs us of our own power. Let's really break down the psychology of the traffic stop.
Let's do it. It's such a universal example. So picture this. You are driving down the highway.
Right.
Suddenly, you see the flashing red and blue lights in your rearview mirror. The adrenaline just dumps into your bloodstream, your stomach drops, you pull over, and the police officer hands you a hefty speeding ticket.
Now, what happens in the brain in that exact moment? Because we almost never sit there, grip the steering wheel, and say, yes, I was exceeding the posted speed limit by 15 miles per hour, and therefore I have received this just and logical consequence.
Never. Nobody does that.
No. Our brain instantly goes to work building a defense case. We look at the officer and we blame them. We say, they were hiding in the bushes. That's a speed trap.
Or they were waiting right around the bend where the limit suddenly drops. It's basically extortion.
Right. Or they used an unseen radar gun. I didn't even stand a chance. We instantly construct this elaborate narrative where we are the innocent victim of a stealthy, unfair ambush.
And we really have to look at what is functionally happening when you construct that narrative. You are experiencing an amygdala hijack, and your ego is just scrambling to protect your self-image.
It's pure defense.
Exactly. By shifting the locus of control entirely away from yourself and placing it onto the police officer or the bushes or the radar gun, you insulate yourself from the guilt.
Right.
But you also insulate yourself from reality. Because a cold, hard fact remains, the mistake was yours. You are the one applying pressure to the gas pedal.
It is brutally simple when you strip away the environmental details. Like the bushes didn't make you speed.
Yep.
The bend in the road didn't make you speed. You made a choice. But let's dig into the actual mechanics of why this blame is so dangerous to our future. Aside from just being an immature reaction, what is the actual energetic transaction of blame?
This is perhaps the most critical concept to grasp today. When you blame someone else for your mistake, you do not escape the consequence.
Right, the ticket doesn't magically disappear.
Exactly. You still have to pay the financial fine. You still get the points on your license. Your insurance premiums still go up. You suffer 100% of the penalty. But because you successfully convinced yourself that it was the police officer's fault for hiding, you extracted zero learning from the event.
I love the analogy of university here. It's like you paid the massive tuition fee, but you completely skipped the class.
Yes, you suffered the pain for nothing. And because your internal state hasn't shifted, because you still fundamentally believe you were just the victim of bad luck, the law of attraction guarantees that you will be a vibrational match for that exact same scenario again.
So you're just going to repeat it.
You will speed again, you will get caught again, and you will suffer the penalty again. Until you drop the blame and own the choice, you are literally just waiting in the lobby for the sequel to happen.
I really want you, the listener, to let that sink in. Where in your life right now are you paying the fine but skipping the class?
That's a great question to ask yourself.
Where are you suffering the messy fallout of a situation, but you are utterly convinced that it's simply because someone else was, hiding in the bushes? Because as long as you hold on to that blame, you are actively inviting the universe to teach you the lesson again. So how do we break the loop? If taking radical ownership is the first step, what is the actual mechanism for extracting the wisdom?
The mechanism is the absolute cornerstone of this entire philosophy. It's gratitude.
Which sounds completely counterintuitive.
It really does. But the premise is that no matter how disastrous a mistake may seem, there are always hidden blessings within it. Always.
Yeah, okay.
And when you consciously force your brain to find as many things as you can to be grateful for within that mistake, you initiate a sort of emotional alchemy. You transmute the heavy, paralyzing weight of regret into the highly active, protective energy of wisdom.
Because the rule of this universe, according to the text, is that mistakes attract more mistakes and blessings attract more blessings.
Exactly. You have to choose which magnetic field you want to generate.
Now, doing this in theory is easy. Doing it when you've just been handed a $300 fine is incredibly difficult. But we have a specific roadmap for this. We are going to walk through the process of extracting 10 distinct points of gratitude from that exact speeding ticket scenario.
And this is where it gets really practical.
It does. And what's fascinating here is that we shouldn't just look at these as a checklist. They actually represent a profound psychological journey.
They absolutely do. This list forces a massive cognitive stretch. The first hurdle you have to clear when you're caught in a mistake is the empathy block.
Empathy for the person who caught you.
Right. When we are defensive, the person holding us accountable, in this case the police officer, becomes a two-dimensional adversary. To break the blame cycle, you have to restore their humanity.
Right. So the first shift in perspective looks like this. Blessing number 1. You find gratitude for the fact that the police officer is actually trying to protect you from harming yourself. And you push that further. I think this is blessing number 8 in the text, by realizing that they must see incredibly heartbreaking, fatal situations on the road every single day.
Just look at what that cognitive shift does to your nervous system. You are dissolving the enemy narrative. You realize This person isn't out to ruin your Tuesday. They are carrying the heavy traumatic burden of witnessing the worst possible outcomes of the exact behavior you were just engaging in.
Wow.
By acknowledging their intent is protection, the resentment just starts to evaporate. You shift from feeling preyed upon to feeling protected.
Which then opens the door for the next phase of the journey, which is honest self-reflection.
Uh,
Blessings 2 and 3. Once you stop fighting the cop, you can actually look at yourself.
yeah.
And this is where you realize, okay, if I'm being brutally honest, I wasn't just speeding. I was deeply distracted. I was thinking about work. I wasn't concentrating on the road. Or maybe you realize I'm driving on a tire I know needs replacing.
This is the real power of radical ownership. When you stop obsessing over the bushes the cop was hiding in, you start noticing your own compounding errors. You realize you were stacking risks.
Stacking risks, yeah.
Speeding is one thing, but distracted speeding on compromised equipment, that is a recipe for a fatality. The gratitude here is profound because you are thanking the officer for interrupting your own negligence before it metastasized into a tragedy.
You're thanking them for the wake-up call, which is really the perfect way to describe the next cognitive leap, Blessings 4 and 5. It's shattering the illusion of invincibility.
Oh, that's a big one.
We all have this bizarre exception clause written into our ego that says the laws of physics and the statistics of car crashes apply to everyone else, but not to us. We have this wild idea that we can speed without putting ourselves in real danger.
That illusion is one of the most dangerous psychological blind spots humans possess. And the flashing lights in the rearview mirror, they shatter that illusion instantly.
They really do.
And finding gratitude for that reality check is life-altering. You are actively thankful that your delusion was broken by a piece of paper and a financial fine, rather than by a multi-car collision.
And once you realize how dangerous your delusion was, your perspective naturally has to broaden outward to the community. This covers Blessings 6 and 7. You stop thinking about how the ticket inconveniences you, and you start applying the golden rule to the situation.
Exactly.
You think about your own family driving on these roads, and you realize that if you desperately want the police to stop other reckless drivers from T-boning your loved ones, you have to support the system when it catches you.
It's the ultimate humbling experience, isn't it? You cannot demand a society of order and safety for your family while simultaneously demanding a free pass for your own chaotic behavior. You are finding gratitude for a system that enforces the collective good.
Which brings us to the absolute pinnacle of this reframing process, Blessings 9 and 10. It's looking down the alternate timelines of reality. When you combine all of these realizations, you were distracted, you were speeding, you were in a multi-ton machine, you realize that getting pulled over was literally the least harmful consequence available on the menu of potential disasters.
And that is the mic drop moment of this practice. When you truly internalize that the alternative to this ticket could have been a hospital bed or a morgue or causing irreparable harm to another family, the anger just completely vanishes.
It's gone.
The ticket is no longer a curse. It is a divine intervention.
You take an event that usually drains you of money, peace of mind, and joy for weeks, and through this mental alchemy, you turn it into a fountain of empathy, self-awareness, and just an immense, overwhelming gratitude simply for your own safe arrival home.
And if we look at the energetic state of a person who has genuinely walked through that process, they aren't going to attract another speeding ticket. Exactly. They have extracted the absolute maximum amount of wisdom from the pain. The universe no longer needs to send them the lesson. They have fundamentally altered their behavioral trajectory and their energetic broadcast.
Okay, so this is incredibly clear when we use a highly structured example like a traffic stop. But, how do we build a bridge from this theory to the messy, complicated, deeply emotional reality of our actual lives?
Right, because real life isn't always that neat.
Exactly. A lot of our biggest regrets don't involve radar guns and clear-cut rules. They involve broken trust, shattered egos, and really complex relationships. Which brings us to how we actually execute this practice today.
The transition from theory to practice is where the real work happens. And the methodology here requires a very specific setup. You have to begin by choosing just one mistake from your past.
Just one.
Just one for now. And the key criterion is this. It needs to be a mistake that still carries an emotional charge. If you think about it and you feel nothing, there's no unextracted wisdom left. You need to pick the one that still hurts.
Because that lingering hurt is the universe's indicator light on your dashboard saying, hey, we haven't fully processed the data from this event yet. You are still vulnerable to repeating it.
Precisely. That pain is a signal.
And the examples provided in the text to help brainstorm this are so uncomfortably relatable. Let's look at a few, because the dynamics shift when other people are involved. What happens, for instance, when the mistake is losing your temper with someone close to you, and the relationship is just never recovered?
That is a deeply painful one because the consequence is the loss of connection. The blame game there usually sounds like, well, they provoked me, or if they hadn't done X, I wouldn't have yelled.
Right, it's always their fault you reacted.
Exactly. But taking ownership means looking at your own failure of emotional regulation. The gratitude might be found in realizing how much you value peace, or learning the precise triggers that cause you to snap so you never do it to a future partner.
Or what about the opposite? What if your mistake was putting blind faith in someone, like a bad business partner or a toxic friend, and getting completely burned? That one carries a double layer of pain because you're furious at them for betraying you, but you're secretly disgusted with yourself for being gullible or ignoring the red flags.
That is one of the hardest scenarios to apply this to, because the ego desperately wants to remain the pure victim. To extract the 10 blessings, you have to acknowledge your own complicity.
Which is so hard.
It is. Maybe you ignored your intuition because you wanted a shortcut. The gratitude comes from realizing your intuition is actually highly accurate when you listen to it. Or being grateful that the betrayal happened now rather than 10 years down the line when the stakes were even higher.
Wow, yeah. We also have mistakes made with genuinely good intentions, like the classic white lie. You tell a lie to protect someone's feelings or cover for them, and it just snowballs into a massive, complicated disaster.
This perfectly illustrates that the mechanics of consequence operate on truth, not just intention. Even if you meant well, deception creates a fragile foundation. The wisdom extracted there is usually a deep, enduring gratitude for the simplicity and structural integrity of radical honesty.
And then there's the classic trap of false economy. You chose the cheaper contractor, the cheaper software, the shortcut, and it all imploded and ended up costing you 3 times as much to fix.
The pain there is pure frustration. But the blessings are found in learning the true value of expertise or recognizing your own scarcity mindset that drove the cheap decision in the first place.
So you take your mistake, whichever one makes your stomach drop, and you move into the action phase. You have to ask yourself 2 guiding questions to crack this open. What did I learn from the mistake? And what are the good things that came out of the mistake?
Those 2 questions are basically the crowbar for your defensive ego. They force your brain out of the loop of regret and into a state of active forensic investigation. You are demanding that your brain find the utility in the pain.
And you must find a total of 10 specific blessings, writing them out or typing them up. And let's be honest about the psychological resistance here. Finding the first 2 or 3 things you learned might be fairly easy. Like, I learned not to speed. I learned not to trust Steve with my money. But by the time you get to blessing number 7, 8, and 9, you are going to hit a wall.
You will absolutely hit a wall because you are stretching your perspective beyond its normal capacity. You have to dig past the superficial lessons and look at how this event altered the trajectory of your entire life.
Right.
Who did you meet because of this failure? What boundaries did you establish? How did your empathy for others grow? It requires careful, sustained thought. But pushing past that resistance is where the neural pathways actually rewire.
Every blessing you force yourself to articulate is another stone on the bridge, carrying you away from the pain and toward the wisdom.
Ah.
And of course, to truly integrate this, we utilize the daily bookends of this entire practice.
Right, because this deep dive into your past doesn't happen in a vacuum. You establish the baseline frequency first thing in the morning by counting your 10 general blessings, the things in your life right now that you are grateful for, rereading them and cementing that feeling.
Then you tackle the heavy lifting of transmuting your mistake. And finally, as you go to sleep, you close the container of the day, you hold your magic rock, you review the last 24 hours, and you find the single best thing that happened, saying thank you for it. It is a total immersive rewiring of your focus from lack and regret into abundance and wisdom.
It shifts your entire identity. You are no longer a victim of your past errors. You are the active architect of your own wisdom.
Okay, let's take a breath and look at the landscape we've just covered. We started by looking at a child falling into the grass on a bicycle and realized that our rigid adult expectations are starving us of the grace required to learn. We explored how the agonizing pain of a mistake isn't the universe punishing us, but a desperately needed mechanical alarm bell warning us to change course before the consequences escalate.
We dismantled the seductive, toxic trap of blame, realizing that when we point fingers at the bushes, we guarantee that we will pay the heavy tuition of the consequence without ever attending the class of wisdom.
And we finally mapped out the alchemy of gratitude. By relentlessly asking what we learned and what good came from the wreckage, we can extract pure gold from our most humiliating moments, altering our energetic trajectory forever.
Which leaves us with a truly challenging implication to consider as we wrap up. If we accept the premise that unlearned pain must endlessly repeat until we extract the lesson, then we have to turn a very critical eye on our current reality.
I see where you're going with this.
We have to ask ourselves, is it possible that the absolute worst, most agonizing, recurring pattern in your life right now, the exact thing you complain about the most and blame others for, is actually just a single, massive, unacknowledged blessing that is simply waiting for you to take ownership and unlock it?
Wow. That is the kind of paradigm-shifting question that completely reorients how you view your struggles. Is your biggest nightmare actually your greatest, most persistent teacher, just waiting for you to stop blaming the bushes? I want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. I hope this conversation has given you a completely new, empowering lens through which to view your past. Your mission for today is clear. Grab your journal, pick the mistake that still makes you wince, and do the hard, beautiful work of transforming your deepest wounds into your greatest wisdom. We will catch you on the next deep dive.